Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw. I'm delighted to be joined in person by Craig Swan and Keith Jackson. Guys, how's it going?
Yeah, alright, stranger.
It's good to be back.
I'm delighted to have you back. No more hosting.
We are also joined, guys, by the one and only Andy Newport, all the way from Rugby Park. Andy, how's it going?
Very well, yeah. Survived Storm Ashley, so how can we say? We're all good.
Storm Ashley wasn't the only storm today, Andy. See that? It's good Swanee, wasn't it? Rangers beaten obviously 1-0 by Kilmarnock. What did you make of the game, Andy?
Well, thoroughly deserved for Kilmarnock. I mean, I thought they were terrific. A sort of typical Derek McInnes team performance. You know, really disciplined, really resolute. Deserved their goal with Marley Watkins just late on 87 minutes, but from a Rangers point of view, wow, I mean, just yet another game where devoid of, any sort of fluency, any sort of style, guile, decisiveness, none of that on show. More alarm bells ringing for Philippe Clement and his team, and obviously the Rangers fans, fairly frustrated bunch right now, made their feelings clear both at the start of the second half with a sort of banner display, and then really had a lot to say after the game. Basically told the team where to go, sort of repeated the scenes we saw this time last year when Michael Beale's team lost that opening Old Firm game this season. It was more of the sort of pointing where to go at full time, so yeah, a fairly disgruntled bunch.
We will come on to some of the comments that have been sent in by some of our viewers, guys, and needless to say, they're very forthright. Before we do that, though, we'll get your guys' take. I thought Rangers were awful today.
Dreadful.
Like, absolutely diabolical.
Dreadful. And the thing where I think the Rangers fans will quite rightly have lost the plot a little bit with this team is it wasn't just any game today. The two teams that they're trailing behind at the top of the table, it was the perfect result from a Rangers perspective. They've both dropped points on the same day. There's a chance to eat into both. It's rather than just try and catch one, it was both perfect. And Rangers went about that game with a real questionable mentality, a lack of desire. I know that Phil Clement said after the game that wasn't the case, but it was the case. There was one team out in that part that wanted to get that result today, and they fought tooth and nail to get it, and it wasn't Rangers. Mm-hmm. Andy's absolutely spot on. There is no identity, no style of play to this Rangers team. Clement had promised by October that you would see the real Rangers. Is this his version of the real Rangers? Because they're rotten. And right now, they're further. I mean, Dundee United are only 1 point behind them in the table. I think Rangers' problem is fending off Dundee United to stay in third, rather than it is getting between Celtic and Aberdeen at the top. They are miles off it. And they're playing like a side that don't A, really have the stomach for it, or B, the belief.
On that as well, Keith says, and I think rightly so, lack of desire, Swanee, but lack of quality.
Lack of quality.
I mean, didn't he cut Kilmarnock open once today, really?
No, and I thought the worrying thing from a Rangers point of view was the fact there appeared to be a lack of ideas from the technical area as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There was changes made in personnel, but there wasn't any changes made in shape. There wasn't any changes made in how can we go about troubling this setup that Kilmarnock were faced us with. It was just the same. You just swapped individuals in the same positions and there was nothing changed. And that, for me, would be a real alarm bell, because I think most Rangers fans probably accept there's going to be a lot of inconsistency in some of those players that have come in.
Yeah.
But in that situation, you're looking for the manager to maybe galvanise or come up with something or do something different or just try something.
Aye.
And they just let it peter out. It was just going to peter out to a 0-0 draw.
I disagree. About 10 minutes into the game, I thought this is good. Kilmarnock 1-0 written all over it.
What I was meaning, Keith, was just as you go into the last 30 minutes, 25 minutes, 20 minutes from Clement's side, it was almost
can't change it.
petering away to a 0-0 draw.
But
of course, Kilmarnock come up with
he's got himself into this mess because he didn't buy a striker. The whole world could see that Cyril Dessers doesn't have the requirements to be Rangers' main striker. He's just so far off it, and yet all he had to replace him with is sort of a untried, untested young Moroccan player that is still as raw as a pound of Moroccan mince.
Who they spent £2 million on?
And does he look ready? Are you, Andy?
Oh, nowhere near it. Again, that's no surprise. The manager sort of told us that at the start of the summer that this guy's going to need sort of time, but I mean, if you get even just today after the game, he was talking about the precious resources that they had to spend in the summer. Well, again, that begs the question: why are you spending £2 million on a kid that has got to acclimatise to Scotland, has barely played football at this level, I've told before, and is going to need time to adjust and settle in. Other target. I hate to go back to Lawrence Shankland, but there's guys about that they could have went. It doesn't have to be Lawrence Shankland, but surely there's better targets than a guy coming from, how many thousands of miles away in Africa. I mean, it really doesn't make any sense to me.
And it beggars belief that Rangers didn't actually make an offer for Lawrence Shankland. It was being discussed. It was something they were debating behind the scenes. It beggars belief that they didn't follow through and put in an offer. At least test Hearts resolve. At least try.
Yeah.
And be seen to be trying to recruit a proper number 9 because, it's no surprise, but I don't think anybody can sit here and feign to be surprised that Rangers are really struggling again because Cyril Dessert is their main attacking option. Everybody could see last season that was going to be an issue.
You could see today, Andy, though we couldn't. I mean, I take it would have been a real struggle for most strikers to get anything. Today, the service it was provided absolutely zero for what I could see on the
TV. Yeah, but even then, I mean, the pitch is awful. The wind certainly didn't help. It was as much as it wasn't as bad as we were all fearing it would be with the storm that was predicted. But it's never nice. I very rarely ever come down here and seen a good game of football just because of the conditions you get. But in saying that, Kel Vassell still manages to trap a ball in the way that Cyril Dessers never really seems to do and be able to. I mean, I think the thing that will frustrate Rangers fans a lot is that you're looking at the job Jimmy Tilleen's doing up at Aberdeen, and he's come in, taken over a team that were nowhere last season, struggling, had to sell their best player at the start of the season for £7 million, but he's still managed to get a tune out of that team immediately for the off. They're competitive. They're not just competitive; they're competing at a level that they haven't done for years.
And there's an identity. There's an identity to the work.
Whereas Clement is still going right now. Oh, we need time. It's going to take patience. There's potential in this team. It's going to come about, but we just need to give the guys time. It's like, well, how long can you keep saying that? I mean, I've said in this show enough times that I don't think they'll sack him. I don't think they should sack him because
they've got nobody to sack him.
Exactly. Exactly. There's nobody one to make the decision to actually get rid of him if they were to come to that conclusion. And secondly, who are they then going to go and get? I mean, you can't keep going on with this process. But in saying that, I think the Rangers fans are right to be expecting more progress from this team. It's, we're a year in. Tomorrow's a year anniversary for his first game. They beat Hibs. They absolutely roasted Hibs that day at Ibrox. Started off a lot of momentum showing, get themselves back into a title race that they looked dead and buried in. But since that game against Celtic, then Ross County, then Dundee, they've been absolutely nowhere. And all sort of momentum, all fluency does appeal to this team. And I think that I think the Rangers fans are well within their rights to expect better.
I'm conscious, Andy, that obviously you'll need to head off. You've got post-match duties to do. Before I let you go, I'm going to throw a couple of the comments we've had sent in at you. This one here from Anne Wood. Clement, apart from terrible results, terrible tactics, performances, he said, wait till you see the real us in October, November. Absolute disaster. This one from Drew McMaster on Facebook. Rangers team gone backwards under Clement. Don't let this fraud waste any more monies in January. Time to go now, Clement out. And I get what you're saying, Andy. I mean, he's got a deal, to 2028, Clement?
Yeah, that was a good idea.
But this game, Andy, against Aberdeen 10 days from now, October the 30th, all of a sudden, that is just...
Yeah. And that does scream, alarm bells for Fleet Clement, because if he goes there and doesn't get the result and ends up even further back, and then then you can forget about a title race. Now you're really on a fight for second at best. So, listen, I think... you're talking the commenter there saying that this is the real. Clement said we would see the real Rangers by this point. I think you are seeing the real Rangers right now. I think this is pretty much what this Rangers team's capable of. It's 5, 6, 7 players shy of being anywhere near being able to compete, and that goes back to the failings that, as I say, I think this is where Fleet Clement has been unlucky because he's inherited a mess that some of it's his making, but a large proportion of it isn't. The recruitment that's gone on before, the off-field shambles, the having to move to Hampden for a month of the season and how costly that was, not just financially but in a football sense. he's got to deal with all that. But I think right now this is the real Rangers. It's it's just nowhere near good enough. And unless there's serious investment made, and or they get lucky and they manage to pull some absolute diamonds out of nowhere, then I think you'll just see a continuation of this. There'll be times where they look good and they manage to get some results, but you'll have a few of these pretty shocking days chucked in between, and then where does that leave them? How many points behind Celtic and Aberdeen will that leave them? That's what they need to worry about going forward.
Andy, we'll let you get on. I'm sure Rangers fans tomorrow can read all about it in your spread and Record Sport. Thanks so much for joining us on the Hotline Live.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, Andy.
Cheers, Andy. Andy Newport there, guys. Let me throw a few more comments at you because we've got plenty coming in, and I should say, if you have sent them in, we really appreciate it. This one here, Jason Meikle. That was terrible. What a shambles we're in. No CEO, no director of football, no director of academy, an interim chairman who isn't very inspiring, and a manager. And sorry, a couple of wee technical details here. My fault. And a manager who can't change a game. Sorry, Phil, but it's game over. Only issue is who will actually sack him and get a new manager in.
That's a huge problem.
Aye.
You make light of it all you want, but there's nobody there to make the decisions.
Aye. And
so Clement might be kind of surviving by default for the time being. That can't be expected to go on indefinitely. And the supporters, they're actually, by going to the bother of taking banners down to Rugby Park and all that shows where they're at right now. And they are one more defeat away from demanding change.
Well, that would be, sorry Dan,
No.
I would imagine that would be a week on. Should Aberdeen take care of Dundee United this weekend and then beat Rangers, they're 9 points ahead of them.
Yeah.
That would surely be the end.
even a drop at Audrey, now you're sort of looking at it and going,
No, it's not good. It's not enough.
It's not good
I mean,
enough,
the thing is, and Andy's right, and Clement will argue, and Clement supporters will argue that he's not been dealt much of a hand. There has been the turmoil, the Michael Beale makeover that was a disaster, and he's having to pick up the pieces from all of that. I get it, but he is a manager. He's a coach, and 1 year into the job, there has to be signs. You have to, even if he doesn't have the greatest players at his disposal. There should be a sort of a platform laid down by now, this is what Rangers will look like.
Yeah.
They can improve the quality within that system, but this is the blueprint for what he's trying to achieve. Swan, there is no blueprint. I look at Rangers and I just don't see what it is that they're actually trying to achieve.
Well,
it's the individuals within the system that he's hoping one of them does something that wins a game. But there seems to be no real joined up tactical philosophy.
And that's what I touched on earlier, and the fact that he had a system, I feel like, and he wasn't prepared to break it today, no matter what was going on. So that's almost as worrying as anything else. I would have thought. It's, you use the word identity, but and system is maybe different from that. But there just seemed to be no idea on how to change it.
And as you say, Keith, Hugh DL here on Facebook saying 1 year in and we're going backwards. It's not even that there's not much progress. They do look.
Oh yeah, they're in regression.
They look worse Rangers than they previously were.
They're a team in regression. There's no doubt about it, and I've been saying that for a number of weeks now.
I mean, I've got a plethora of these comments on Philip Clement. Let me just get through a couple more.
Save some, it's a long week.
Let me have a look. Stephen Kilpatrick, we are absolute dross and will finish fourth. James Cooper, long balls caused us problems all game and a bad decision by Butland not sticking to his line. And Andy Cairns, embarrassing from a group of so-called men representing our club. No heart, no idea what it means to pull on our colours. Bunch of fairies that collapse at the first sign of pressure. And I get, guys, that we've mentioned Clement's contract. We've even mentioned the fact that there might not even be anyone to sack him. But as you say, Keith, if this gets much worse, it will get to a point where fans are demanding action, and there's no way out of it.
I think they're pretty close. I think a lot of them are still cutting the manager a bit of slack because they can see that the club's been badly run from the top for a long time now, and maybe they're prepared to cut Clement slack, and that he's just the guy that's having it front us up. What chance would he have? But I think there'll be another section of the Rangers support that will examining his role in this more closely and will be dissatisfied with what they're seeing. because there is nothing to see. There's nothing about Philip Clement's side that you sit and you look and go, right, I see what he's trying to do. I see what direction he's trying to move, and if he can get a couple of better quality players into certain positions, you can see what his vision might look like. There is no vision. It's blurred. In fact, watching that today it was eye bleeding stuff. It was so bad.
Yeah, it was really bad.
So bad.
Yeah, it was really bad.
And I just don't know. I just don't know where he goes from here, or how he tries to kick on, because I would think that more and more, you know, yes, there are fans that will point the finger of blame at the board, but more and more when you look at the poor quality of the performance level, that has to come back at the manager. There's nobody else responsible for that, just him.
Yeah. Well, on Live and X, Steve-O agrees with you, Swan. He's saying Clement's pig-headed, hates being told how to improve his team, he's got his own vision and won't or doesn't take advice.
Do you know something, Daniel? If it is pig-headedness and stubbornness, that's almost better than not being able to see it.
Aye, true. Aye, that's a good point.
You know, if you know, if you see it, but no, this is the way I'm going to play it. That's almost a better bet than you're looking at that and thinking that's going okay today.
But I don't.
But what is
Aye, I know it's just like a straight 4-2-3-1, relying on big moments from players.
That's exactly it.
Aye.
If an individual stands up within that system and does something that changes the game, then great. But what is actually the team? What's the functionality of this team? What's it trying to achieve?
Because you look back to recently, the Hibs game at home, I thought Rangers were really poor that day. Brilliant goal from Lawrence. Czerny against Johnston, they weren't great.
Kilmarnock have a rigid system, and we know the two front players and the two wide guys, and it does leave a lot of work for the two lads in the middle of the park to do. Rangers didn't need an extra body in there. They could have shoved one forward.
Aye.
You know, they could have had a go, and you know, whatever the personnel is, you just try and get another person up front, try and get two up. Just try something.
Aye.
Just try something. And that was a day where it could have been done, and it just didn't happen.
He very rarely makes a game-changing substitution either. In fact, sometimes it's really hard to understand what the substitution is.
What the thinking is.
Yeah, and what's based upon. When sometimes they're needing a goal, they put some defensive midfield player. You kind of look and going, are we even watching the same game here?
Aye.
So, you know, Andy says, where do Rangers go next? Well, there was a guy standing in the dugout next to Philip Clement today that continually pulls off results like this.
I was going to say, before we move on from this, we need to talk about Killie briefly, because they were brilliant today.
And they were superb.
I mean, even I think if it finished 0-0, it wouldn't have done Killie justice. I mean, particularly in the first half, by far the better team. Obviously, Robbie Davis had the goal chopped off, but aside from that, they created 2 or 3 really good chances, and I think they thoroughly deserved the win. And
you go back to Keith's point about, and the word that we use quite a lot is identity. And you know what you're going to get from Derek McInnes's Kilmarnock. You know how they're going to be set up. And they don't make any apologies for it, and nor should they, because they're labelled a sort of direct team, and you know it's not pretty to watch and such like that. But the footballers, you know, Armstrong and Kennedy are great technical footballers, and they just get it to them quickly. And they've got 2 wide guys, and they get it out of their feet and they deliver it. But then, if they're under pressure, Matty Kennedy can ball carry, Danny Armstrong can ball carry. But you know what you're going to get. And we talked about it at the start of the season. It's very difficult for clubs to try and juggle Europe, and it was always going to be a tricky situation for Kilmarnock. But you knew that Derek McInnes was going to sort it out. It wasn't going to be a problem when all the games calmed down and they got sort of into their groove and into their routine.
He's proven.
Got everyone back.
And that's
you
why
knew it was coming, and that's why the Kilmarnock fans were all calm at the start of the season.
And that's the difference in it this morning, because you look at the reaction at Hearts when Naismith was down at the bottom of the table. Now, Naismith's results and Derek McInnes' results were actually really, really similar. There's a point between them. But at no point was there any suggestion that Billy Bowie might be getting an itchy trigger for Derek McInnes. He just relaxed. He knows fine well this guy's got it. And now here they are, levelling points with Dundee in 6th place, knocking on the door of the top 6, which is probably where they'll end up again this season. He just continues to perform. So if Rangers are looking for an answer, if they don't know where to turn to, well, there's a guy that just keeps doing it. I get the feeling that, you know, that the Hearts fans didn't seem too excited about Derek McInnes when he was named as a potential replacement for Stephen Naismith, and I dare say the Rangers fans won't be overly excited about the idea of Derek McInnes for Rangers. But I wonder why. I just don't. I struggle to understand it. You know, unless you come from a coffee shop in Reykjavik, you're no use anymore. Derek McInnes he continually overachieves. And I struggle to see how any Rangers fan could look at what they've got just now and think that he wouldn't improve it.
You better not go any further south than M77 in Galston. That's when they're trying to get Derek McInnes out of Kilmarnock.
I know, it does feel like that. I'll give him the Scotland job.
Well, look, time is ticking on, guys. We need to move on from Rugby Park. And let's talk about Celtic Aberdeen, because it was the game that was sort of billed as the game of the season so far, at least. Might have been the game of the season in total. It was an absolutely amazing game, brilliant game, and credit to Aberdeen for coming back, because at half time you kind of just thought Celtic were going to win this by 3 or 4.
We went into the game saying this is the measuring stick match for Aberdeen. This is where we'll find out, because I think Swan had said quite frequently so far this season, throwing them under a bus the way that he does. You know, they've done nothing, they've played nobody. They just kept on churning out wins. And to find themselves in that situation, 2-0 down at half-time at Celtic Park against a Celtic side which gobbles people up for fun, for them to dig deep and find the resolve required to come back and get a 2-2, that tells you all you need to know about how bona fide this Aberdeen threat is this season. I don't think they'll win the league, I'll state that quite clearly, but they'll be hanging around. They will hang around at the top end of this table. They're in great nick, and the mentality that they displayed yesterday was everything that you needed to see from them, to know that they're not just going to fall by the wayside this season.
The certain bookmakers, you can get Aberdeen at 4-1 to finish second.
It's not a bad bet, Swanee. You're the betting expert.
With a 6-point head start.
Given the evidence of Rugby Park today, it's a fairly generous bet.
Aye, I would think
I wonder if the odds are still the same.
I checked them just before we come on air, so I think so. But the one major talking point from the game, there was plenty, but but Duke's handball, alleged handball in the last minute. How did you guys see it? I know Bobby Madden's come out on Instagram. He said that he didn't think it was a handball. It's kind of hit his, thigh, chest, onto his arm. We've had a lot of comments on this. Let me run through a couple actually while I can. Robert McMullen here on Facebook. Look how outstretched his arm is. He's making himself much bigger, is making sure the ball does not get past him in any way possible. But Ron Stewart says it's not clear to the ref or VAR, then it's not a foul. And Steve McAteer, there's an angle behind and to the left of the goal, but you get a clear view facing Duke. Clearly hits the left side of his chest and his arm. And just finally in the game, Tony Coughlin, refreshing to have a team actually fight for once against Celtic at Celtic Park. I actually thought it was a penalty, to be honest. I know it does hit his arm, but he kind of is leaning. Looks to me like he's denied a goal with his arm.
I was at the game, and the first reaction, because obviously you don't have television replays, right? You're at the game, and the first thing that struck me was Duke's celebration. Mm-hmm. If you've handled that, you don't run away celebrating, because you know you're going to get caught.
Aye, okay, aye.
But he clearly knew that hit him. Even if it hit his arm afterwards, he clearly knew it hits him, and the TV cameras would see it. So because you're not going to run away like that celebrating if you know it's one of those ones you throw your arms behind your back, or you do that, or you lie on the ground and hold your face, or all the tricks that they come out with. He jumped up and ran away and started celebrating as if he scored a goal.
Punching the air and all that.
So at the game, certainly my reaction was, well, he's blocked it.
Aye.
So
what the rule as well, we should say, is that if it comes off one part of your body and hits your arm, it's not a penalty.
If it ricochets onto the arm, it's not a penalty.
Aye.
Yeah, well, but this handball rule seems to change this week, doesn't it? But for me,
which is a bit harsh, because if it's deflecting up and it's still going in and it hits your arm,
that was my point.
Then it probably is. But the rules say if it hits another part of the body first, so the rules.
That was my thinking. It looks like it has hit his leg and then his arm. But again, using his arm to stop a goal.
I thought the quality of the pictures was really inconclusive. It was really difficult to see a clear view. So what you're actually asking then, Daniel, if you think it's a penalty kick, is that you're asking VAR to just make a guess that possibly was. Can't do that.
Yeah.
There was no. I've yet to see a still where you've looked at it and go, I can see exactly what's happened there. So your imagination has to kick in. I think that the way the ball is almost dies stone dead. So it does make your mind think, I wonder if there's been an arm there. Because it's a curious way the ball just sort of flops down, rather than stoats off. It's come off his shoulder. But as I said, it's inconclusive. If the pictures are inconclusive, then you're asking people to apply their imagination and make a guess. And you can't have that.
Can't do that.
Yeah, that's true. A couple of more comments on that game. Aberdeen will take 3 or 4 off Rangers. There's actually one here if I can find it. Where a Rangers fan wants Jimmy Teelan brought in. You were at the game, Swanee.
Yep.
Aberdeen, more than good value for at least a point.
Yeah, they were excellent. They were really, really good. The one thing that struck me was in the first half, you could see that, you come back to this identity thing, they were determined to play the right way, and they got caught. The second Celtic goal came, they were trying to keep it, Mitov cleared it, and Celtic won it back. They were actually trying to play football in the Celtic half, and they got robbed as well and for the first goal. But they just kept doing it, and when they got Sokler and Esther, Sokler scored the first goal to get them back into the game at 2-1.
What about the pass for Jamie
flooded.
McGrath?
Pass
What about the pass?
Passes.
That was just a thing of filth.
A snooker shot, wasn't it?
Absolute
A bit
filth.
of backspin just to curl it round the. It's like check side.
Delicious.
It was glorious. But Sokler did great. Kept his composure and put it away.
Some finish, yeah.
But after that, the bodies that Aberdeen flooded forward, there was real belief that they were going to go and get something, and they committed to it. And that was I think that was the most impressive thing. Now, we've seen how VAR can affect games. It's funny because had Dukes deflected off his elbow goal that went in for 3-2 in the big celebrations, and that goal was chalked off, I actually felt if the game had continued in the same vein, Aberdeen might have.
They were more likely.
They might have gone on and won it. But what happens in that situation? You've seen it a million times at games since VAR
Switch your
comes in.
momentum. Yeah.
Celtic fans are all down, looking at each other, and then it comes through, handball, goal chalked off, place went crazy. And you could see the Celtic players going, right, come on, let's go. And from that moment on, Celtic went right after it, and it almost changed the momentum of the game. It was really strange. If they chalked off goal hadn't gone in, I wonder if Aberdeen might have gone on and won it anyway. And then they were lucky not to lose it because Celtic had umpteen chances. I mean, Duke's handball or not, Alistair Johnson should bust the net. Ida should score with his head on him. It's a great save from Dimitar.
I was going to say, we need to mention Mitov, because I wouldn't actually be surprised if, the next time Celtic need a goalie, they go for Mitov, because I remember last season with St Johnstone, St Johnstone got a 0-0 draw, and he was brilliant that day. And I thought yesterday some of his saves were outrageous.
But we always talk about goalkeepers winning points, and was it not just 2 games ago when he had a phenomenal save in injury time against Motherwell at home?
Aye, you're right, aye.
Then again yesterday.
Aye.
These are points in the bag. This is what your goalkeeper's giving you. I mean, listen, Aberdeen will probably have to tighten up if they're going to keep on this run, because they are giving goals away.
I think
But they're scoring.
I think his decision making's a bit flaky.
Really?
I think he's a brilliant shot stopper, really agile, and he's making saves that shouldn't be expected of a goalkeeper. But I think he's a little bit suspect in terms of his overall decision making, and I think that can sometimes cause defensive problem. But other than that, shot stopper, he's a top shot stopper. Really good pair of hands.
One decision to stop a ball going beyond his own goal line nearly led to one of the goal of the season. When he rescued it in Engels, tried to bend it in from almost the corner flag, and he nearly did it. It was outrageous bit of skill.
It's moments like that I'm talking about. With I think he's got that in his locker from time to time.
Joe McKenzie here on Facebook says, he's on YouTube. I don't mind Aberdeen getting a point, they will drop points. Keith, you said you don't think Aberdeen will win the league.
No.
But do you think they'll split the over?
I think there's every chance, yeah. I think if you look, they're a team with an upward trajectory right now. Rangers are the opposite. And Rangers are trailing them by 6 points. And they've got to go to Pittodrie soon. So, yeah, I mean, look, could change. Rangers could go up there and get a result and, knock the wind out of Aberdeen's sails a little bit and then get themselves onto a bit of a run. But, there's a lot of coulds and ifs and maybes there. When you look at Rangers, you have to judge with your eyes on what they're actually delivering. And what they're actually delivering is just unconvincing with a capital U.
That game at Pittodrie is going to be absolutely massive.
Yeah, I think it's very important going into that game for Aberdeen that they take care of Dundee United on Saturday. I think that
do Rangers a favour.
Kill their momentum a little bit going into the Rangers game if something slipped there. If they can take in, and incidentally, that's going to be a cracker of a game as well. The way Dundee United are playing.
And as well, so Dundee United at home, Rangers at home, Celtic in the Cup.
Yeah.
And that's a huge 2 weeks for Aberdeen. Absolutely massive.
Yeah, we said that before. We knew it was going to be. And I think what yesterday's game has also done is really whet the appetite for the cup semi-final.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anybody
You're going to get a proper game.
Yeah, proper game.
And I bet Brendan Rodgers won't be looking forward to that, in the sense that he's probably up against the hardest thing he could face.
I thought Celtic were slightly off it yesterday, and that's the second time that's happened. And this is not to take anything away from Aberdeen, but after the last international break, Celtic came back to a game with Hearts and they were a bit sluggish and they weren't really at it, and they won 2-0 with Luke McCowan scoring a goal later on for the second. They weren't really themselves. There was times yesterday they weren't really themselves. I would imagine 2 weeks from now at Hampden.
A bit different.
Especially after what happened yesterday. That's not me saying that Aberdeen got a point because Celtic struggled. I just thought they were slightly off it.
But this is also a dangerous moment in the season for Brendan Rodgers, because he's got Atalanta to come, right? That's 2 points dropped at home. We're not happy with the performance level.
And based on the way Aberdeen got in at times yesterday,
Exactly,
with the way
Swan.
Atalanta play,
Exactly right.
and Atalanta are like an Ange Postecoglou team. They're not a typical Italian team who will go 2 or 3 up
And then
play-
just kill it. No.
If they went 2 or 3 up, they would start playing keep ball. They don't do that.
They want 5 and
just
6.
go.
Yeah. So I think that's a really dangerous away trip, and I think that he's got big decisions to make now, in terms of, is he going to be stubborn? All these guys like us who've never managed or played, we don't know what we're talking about. Sure, it's the old argument. I know what a good movie looks like. I've never been Martin Scorsese. So, is he going to stick and be stubborn and allow Callum McGregor to be as open and exposed as he was in Dortmund, or is he going to ask the two midfielders, just a tweak, just bring the two midfielders in, just let's be tight and compact and difficult to play through, because that's what he needs to do. But he's sort of suggesting that he disagrees entirely with it.
Yeah.
So if it goes, and if that midfield is open, and if the two players in front of McGregor are playing 15, 20 yards further up the pitch, Celtic will get eaten alive. So that is difficult for Brendan Rodgers. And we talk about, it's okay, you can recover from a bad European performance or result because you're so much more of a monster than anybody else in your own backyard. Well, they've just dropped 2 points at home to Aberdeen. That's not necessarily the case right now. So this is an interesting few weeks for Brendan Rodgers. We saw last season he went through a real sticky patch. There's the potential for this to be a similar kind of period for him. Really interesting to see what he does about trying to, or if he even has the slightest intention of trying to beef things up a little bit in the middle of the park for Atalanta, because it's a dangerous tie.
I'm also looking a little bit further down the line with Celtic as well, but in this block of games that they've got, the home Champions League game, could probably have done with it being Bruges or Young Boys. They could probably have done without it being RB Leipzig.
Aye.
That doesn't help because they're pretty lethal as well.
A real outfit, aye.
Although Celtic should hopefully be different on their own patch.
We will talk more about Celtic's Champions League fixtures in the coming days. Obviously, it's Wednesday, isn't it? Yes. Wednesday, that's the last game.
Early kickoff.
5:45. That's right. But before we finish up today, guys, I need to get both your thoughts on Hibs and Hearts, because they play the first Edinburgh derby of the new season next weekend, and they go into it as the bottom two teams in the division.
Incredible.
Just seems absolutely absurd to me. I mean, I know Neil Critchley's just come in, good win for him yesterday, but what is going on at the two clubs? It just seems mad.
Yeah,
They are where they are.
The first evidence is good for Neil Critchley and the supercomputer. It looks as if it crunched the data properly, and a 4-0 win against St Mirren, well, Hearts wouldn't have seen that come. But he needs to back it up. We talked about the potential for really difficult start to his Tynecastle career. St Mirren followed by the Edinburgh derby. Well, he's negotiated the St Mirren leg of that safely. Tremendous result, and that'll boost the spirits and get the momentum up a little bit. And the fans, rather than dreading the Edinburgh derby, they'll have a wee spring in their step going into it now. But there's a lot of hard miles to go for Critchley in terms of to prove that he really is the guy for this job. And David Gray, unfortunately, is facing the real similar scenario at Easter Road. Again, we talked about Clement. I'm saying he's surviving by default at the minute. Can't continue indefinitely. Well, as much as I think Hibs fans really want David Gray to be a success. These results are not nice.
He's been let down by senior players as well.
He has been.
The red cards in the last couple of years. Joe Newell
Yeah.
yesterday.
That was madness.
At the timing of the game.
Yeah.
Triantis the week before.
And then to
they're
concede,
just constantly shooting themselves in the foot.
to concede, what was it, the 97th minute as well?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a hammer blow.
Up until this point, Hibs have kind of been laughing up their sleeves a little bit, the mess that Hearts have got themselves into. And then all of a sudden you wake up and hold on, we're at the bottom.
aye.
Yeah.
Going into an Edinburgh derby. And I have to say, it does actually annoy me. These are two of our biggest clubs.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt. They should be punching their way up the top end of the division. They shouldn't be slitting each other's throats down at the bottom of the league. It's embarrassing.
It's mad,
And it happens too often.
I was just going to say that, Keith. For all, the managerial stuff and David Gray's a newbie, it's absolute disgrace with Hibs and Hearts.
Yeah,
8
no,
games
it's-
or not 8 games, it's a disgrace
Aye,
with
that's-
what they've got at their disposal. The resources they've got at their disposal, where they are. And as Keith said, it's not a one-off. And in fact, it's a one-off that they're both there. But there's always one or t'other struggling badly and messing about, flirting with the bottom
Never
six.
actually fully delivering on the promise.
Yeah.
And they should, if you look at Aberdeen, that's what they should be doing.
And just finally on that, guys, the game's at Easter Road, but I wonder if that is actually a hindrance to David Gray and Hibs, because if that starts to go wrong, that could be a pretty toxic environment for him. And just on top of that as well, I know it's very early days. I hope I'm wrong. I think Hibs, I mean, anytime I see them, they just look so devoid of any creative, I could see them being a
I think if they
relegation
I just think, I don't agree, you have to say, I think there's enough quality in there, and I think if they cut out stupidity and actually sort out the one thing you did think when David Gray came in the door was a player like he was, a right back with his aggression and discipline and
They're gonna be
organisation.
defensively solid.
That would be the first thing that he did, and he signed. They got Bursick in, and they got some defenders in. You thought, okay, that's where the platform's going to be built from. That's been Hibs' problem for years.
Aye, for 3 and 4 managers, eh?
Yeah, constantly just giving away bad goals, and that would concern me slightly. But I am convinced they're going to sort that side of it out, and I think they've got enough goals in them. But I have been wrong before.
Do you know what the worry is, and maybe there's an element of this in Rangers as well just now, there are certain clubs, remember Sunderland with a great example, different manager every 6 months, you'd end up with a dressing room with players bought by 4 or 5 different managers, and you wonder if there's a bit of that syndrome kicking in at Hibs and at Rangers for that matter, and that can be a fairly toxic environment when you've got too many players from too many previous managers, and each and every one of them has had a hard luck story and a bad experience at the club. Sunderland disappeared off the face of the planet for a while because of exactly that, and I'm looking at Rangers and Hibs as examples of is something similar happening there right now.
Guys, I think that brings us to the end of Sunday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you so much for all of the comments that have been sent in. We really appreciate it, and we'll be back to do it all again tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Swanee, Keith, thank you very much.
Style.
And thanks for watching at home. Cheers.